And I'm joined by Mr. Wayne Proctor. How you doing, Wayne, man?
All good. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. Good to see you again. Obviously, I saw you the other night over at Norwich with the Day Collective. Looks
Yep,
like
yep.
a great show. Obviously, looks like the tour's been going really well for everyone. There's been a lot of vibing going on about it on the socials even before I saw this particular set from you guys. How's it been for you guys?
Yeah, yeah, good. I mean, four shows in. What we done? Leeds, Manchester, Norwich, and Milton Keynes so far, and good. We can definitely feel a difference from what we were doing last year. We really went hardcore on rehearsals. Um, yeah, like 14-hour day rehearsals and not really stopping. And we've got a couple of new songs in, and so just trying to pad the set out a little bit. And yeah, a lot to remember. As you saw the lighting rig.
Yeah, man, that the lighting rig was really impressive. I know when I was chatting to yourself before, and Ollie and Sam, to be fair as well. We all say, "No, yeah, we've been working, program the lights. We were going to bring this to it," and I was like, "Okay," so I was looking forward to seeing that. They look really immense, man. It looked a bit Tubeway Army-esque in places.
Yeah, it's an intense thing. I don't think my brain's set up for it, but it's definitely set up for Ollie's brain.
Yeah,
Um, and I think we were a couple of 2-3 weeks ago. We were in here when we were just tweaking, kind of remixing but rebalancing the epilogue EP.
no,
Because we'd done the Solitude Sessions version of Another Day Lost,
yeah,
and we recorded it all in here. And it came out so good. It was like it made the three mixes from the rock versions, the more powerful versions. Because we mixed them 3 years ago,
okay.
so it was like, oh, maybe we need to kind of just revisit this. And obviously being in my room now, and with this being so accurate and the new system and stuff, we kind of went in and remixed those three songs. So I'm in here kind of building the sessions. He's sat just there like going, right, it's this bit of software with this bit of software, and trying to get it all going. And then all the lights turned up, and then he took them back to his place. And I think it was like 5-6 hours a track, maybe more on some of the more epic ones.
So
Um,
there's no shortcut on it. Then it is
you've got
proper
to put
programming.
yeah, you got to put a shift in. It's all done with MIDI, but very cool though. And then of course all the drum fills and drama, and you're adding a second media to not only the dynamics of the band, but you're adding this extra impact to everything.
Yeah, it definitely added like a visual element, like it definitely brung that kind of, for want of a better term, a kind of theatre aspect to it in terms of bringing that visual element to it. It won't
Yeah, which is really nice. So obviously when we can play, your festival, we're planning that.
nice.
Really want to do the full shindig with it whenever we can. Obviously, if you've got a daytime slot at a festival, you're a bit limited. But when we can, we're going to do it because it just really adds so much atmosphere and drama to the gig, and hopefully adds to the emotion of it. And so yeah, it's been a nice little addition, but a lot of work
Yeah.
building up to the first day. And you press go on it, and then you're like, oh god, please just work.
Yeah, I bet, man. I mean, like you say, these songs that you and Ollie wrote together across the three EPs, they are really, they are very emotional.
Yeah,
Obviously, I was aware of Ollie from his back catalogue that he'd done previously, and yourself, other projects that you've been involved in, but when I heard "Haunted," which was obviously the first track that you released, I just instantly messaged Ollie and like, dude, where on earth has this come from, man? And he started telling me a little bit, and we had Ollie on the show. Probably within a couple of weeks after Haunted got released for a chat as we are now, and it was obviously coming from a very personal place for him and a very emotional place, and you
yeah.
can hear that on Haunted, and I just feel like across the EPs that depth has only kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just so powerful, especially in a live setting as well. How was it from when you were writing these songs together with Ollie?
Well, I think like with everything tends to start somewhere and expands, and you do other projects. This is the cool thing with producing so many different people and working on so many different things. You get inspired by what other people do, and I think the confidence with what we've did this stuff came from quite an odd place that I was producing Kaz Hawkins album,
Okay.
who's from Ireland, and she's amazing. Like she's really really epically amazing. And she'd come to me and said, "Oh, I want to make an album. I don't want to make a blues album. I want to make a like a rootsy crossover thing."
Yeah.
And but then of course lockdown started, so that was that. And so we were kind of building this record like with and it was 15 songs. It was a lot of songs. And but anyway, she sent me these demos over, and I said to Ollie, "Do you want to do this together?" You know, he was up staying with me, and it was like, "All right, should we do this?" And we started kind of working on the arrangements and kind of having Kaz's demos, and then changing the tempo and doing all these different things with the arrangements, and then sending them back to Kaz, and then she would sing on them, and slowly built it up. But I think because there was this fearlessness to just rip the demo to pieces and try and find this spot where it started to have more life rather than it just being a little one-dimensional. We just played with tempo, so played with arrangement, and started adding all these things. And I think because we were just locked into a room throwing stuff at it, when we came to do the next stages of Dead Collective stuff, we went in with this same degree of confidence and this same degree of let's not be precious. Just because that's how you started the demo doesn't mean that's how it's going to end up.
Yeah.
And so I think like Heard It All Before, Haunted, Sinking Ship especially really came out completely different to the way the original demo was. It was unrecognizable. We just kept moving the tempo up, and it kept going, and all of a sudden it's like I was like, God, that's got a vibe. And then right, then we're going to just do some drums, and I think I did like a quick pass because all my drums were mic'd up, and what we ended up with was this like, that's a vibe. And, like, right, and Ollie then went, right, let me take that away, write the rest of the track. I think something similar happened with Haunted, where we'd got it up to a certain point, and I can't remember. There was something happened where I think we maybe got it up to the end of the second chorus, and that's all we had. And then he went away, and then just came back with this massive progressive arrangement with all those dips and troughs, and we didn't have all the lyric at that point. I think we had the first verse and the chorus, but excuse me, we didn't have the "Can I let go? Will I let go?" lyric, you know, where it was this kind of ambiguity of like, am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? Point of view. And but it was there. It was like this kind of pretty solid thing. But once again, we just played around with it, and then these songs started like kind of presenting themselves. And I definitely remember a night where we were here, where got quite drunk on gin, and we were we were listening to an instrumental version of the album.
Yeah.
Before we'd even done the lyric and final melodies, and we were just buzzing and so happy with where it was coming from. And then it was like, we've got to do lyric now, haven't we? And then I think we just locked. This is when we were still working out of Superfly Studios, and they have like a little B room, which is not that dissimilar to this, but then we just went in there and cried and wrote lyric. And inhabited each other's feelings, you know, in terms of like, I knew what he was going through, I was going through my own stuff, and you know, and we just kind of just found this nice little creative middle ground where we knew what the imagery was that we wanted to say, and then of course that expanded into these songs, and Haunted what is obviously one of them, and
yeah,
when all of them kind of went down like that. I think a few of them, they were a little bit more complete. Like certainly Your Love was like 95% there. They were pretty much all written by Ollie. Home Sweet Home was pretty much done. But then there'd just be like little things where we'd just tweak them. But it'd all be stuff that I was also feeling as well. You know, like it was quite easy to access the darker, I hate to say it, depressive, because it makes you sound like you're on the edge of suicide all the time, but I don't mean it like that. It's just I've always found it quite easy to live in that space in terms of lyrically, so it was an easy spot for us to both be in and kind of and express and be like, oh yeah, should we go darker? Oh yeah, let's go darker.
I think
And
that's the thing, though, isn't it? Like when you're writing lyrics, it's like all the best lyrics and best songs, in my opinion, do come from an emotional place.
absolutely, yeah,
And when you're in those places, and like you say, you don't want to keep using the term depressive because it makes you sound like you say, like things you say so. But it is a part of life, and it is, I think it's an honest one. And I think when people are being honest in that space that you're talking about, and I think that's why it resonates with so many people, because so many people have been in there. Some people have been different scenarios that made it, but they've been in their version of that space. And I
yeah,
think when you're bonding like you and Ollie did, I mean, you know, I could see when I saw you guys in Norwich playing, and I could see you singing while you were playing, and you were singing it with, well, you weren't mic'd up, so we couldn't hear you, but I could see you singing it with as much conviction as Ollie was.
yeah.
That's one thing that did strike me. That you could tell it meant both of you. It wasn't a mate helping out another mate with writing something that he was going through. You were going through this together, and you could see you both reflecting on that in the performance.
Definitely, and I think so. You inhabit the songs in a different manner. It's never just been lyric for lyric's sake. It's like this stuff has to have atmosphere, and I'm very lucky that I've always, for a long time since I worked with like John Amor from the Hoax and Ian Parker and people like that. These are guys that are very very good with lyric and very good at painting pictures, and then certainly joining A.A. Williams, and you're going out with the likes of Sleep Token, and the lyrics that guy writes are just incredible. Such an inspiration, and yeah. So we're picking the game up even more, because makes you realize what's possible,
Yeah.
and that's exciting because every time we think that we've hit a point, like certainly with those 9 songs that are across the 3 EPs, that was going to be the debut album.
Okay.
And we had this 24-date tour with Cheap Trick booked, and COVID just pretty much obliterated it, just destroyed it. So that was going to be right. Let's get the album done. We'll launch it. Do these 24 dates. It was all around Europe.
Nice.
It was going to be so good. It was the perfect way to launch it. But of course, COVID did what it did. That delayed everything, and we didn't get it out. Then it was like, oh well, we need to get something out, and then of course, then you're living with these songs for such a long time. Then it starts to feel like, oh, I think we may have moved on from this being an album now. Maybe it's an EP, or maybe it's 3 EPs. Or if we're going to make it 3 EPs, we can't just have 3 songs per EP. Oh, let's do the Solitude Sessions thing and re-envisage a song, and rework it. And then certainly when we started writing songs for what is going to be the debut album, there was a very distinct shift in terms of the sense of grandeur about the songs.
Do you think that's because you already sort of set that bar though? Because like one thing that they instantly hit me with all the rest of the songs after Haunted was those little nuances, those little sort of almost soundscape bites that were going through the tracks, and it
Yeah.
feels like those like add a real big depth to the music anyway. So like, do you feel like you've already set the bar with the EPs on doing that? So on the album, you're just trying to do that more.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's that, but the freedom with the Solitude Sessions versions is that you've already written the song.
Yeah.
So it's almost like your playing field it's not anything to do with your history. It's which is whenever you first start writing, it's always related to what you've done before. Initially, I think, and then when you do the Solitude Sessions, it's like, well, let's just do it different, right? What are you feeling? And then you get confident with the additional production elements you're bringing in. And we brought for the first, well, in fact, all 3 songs, Joe Quayle, who is someone I've met through A.A. Williams, amazing cellist, amazing. She's amazing at production, but she's like just incredible arranger. She came up and did Haunted. She also did with Sinking Ship, the Solitude Session version. We basically gave her the song and went, right, you do your version, how you would do it. Don't let us influence it. Like where with Haunted, I think I played acoustic guitar, and then she came up with an arrangement to the vocal track and the acoustic guitar. With Sinking Ship, we just said, just go hog wild, do whatever you want.
Nice. That's some trust.
Yeah, and when it came back, we didn't use everything, but there were a lot of I think it was like 50 tracks of cello. But she's one of these people that loops her own cello, and she'll hit it, and it'll has all these things. She's an artist in her own right, you know. She's open for loads of major bands, and an incredibly talented musician. And she just brought this fresh thing that there's no way we would have done that. But then, of course, we got in it and then did, like I said, what we did with Kaz's stuff, and just tweak the tempo till it just had an energy where we're like, oh, I can sing it there, and oh, let's just lose that bit, let's do that, let's just okay, and then all before you know it, we've got a new arrangement, and it ended up being a completely different version. And she actually did do that for Another Day Lost.
Okay.
But I think when so she re-envisaged it, and I think when we stripped it back, we went, oh, that's great. Actually, but what's it like if we did that bit on guitar? And then, so we actually didn't end up using anything that she sent us, but what she did, it inspired the new version.
Wicked, man. That's
so
really...
yeah, everything kind of leads to another thing, and you know, this is why all ideas are valid, even bad ideas. You know, they take you somewhere else, and that's why you always have to exercise these things. You know, you try them, and oh yeah, but oh, what happens if we do that and that, and oh, before you know it, it's becoming bigger than the sum of its parts. So there's no way that you would ever find that unless you invested the time and effort to investigate.
Yeah, and to play and to see what comes back.
Yeah, and the speakers always tell you when it's working as well. You know, like, but you could spend half an hour debating it, where it'll take you. I think there's this guy called Warren Hewart, a producer, and he calls it the 7-minute rule. It'll take you 7 minutes just to try that idea out and dismiss it, or it develops and it might spark another seed of inspiration in the room.
Oh, that makes sense.
So I always think, so we always say, let's try it. You know, it's not, because the moment you start going, oh, no, you know, and start whinging, oh, it doesn't become anything, does it? You know, okay, let's just try it, and it always does something, you know. But so you have to start somewhere, and certainly in Joe's case, she just inspired what we were doing, and when we sent the version that we've ended up with, she's like, "This is great, guys. Don't worry, I don't mind. I'm not on it. You know, it's fine." I think we paid her anyway, so. But she was like, "This is great. I think this is the way forward." And we're like, "Yeah," because it was so much fun. Because you're looking for different soundscapes, you're looking for different ways of presenting the song, and it's not stuff that you would have just come up with, you know. Like that maybe we would have done 3 years ago. We didn't have the confidence to just go, yeah, whatever. It's like throwing. I think Keith Richards calls it. It's like you just throw daubs against, you know, it's like daubs of paint. You just throw onto a canvas, and some of it sticks and some of it doesn't, and it, all of a sudden it starts to feel right. And then the moment you start to get this goosebumpy effect, and you start to recognise when it works, even if it's not in a more traditional sense, you still know
this is. You still know what sounds right in your ear and what doesn't.
Yeah, and feels right actually more than anything. That's the danger with, I think, modern rock music. It becomes a bit plastic because it ends up being 4 times round of the riff, 8 times round of the riff, then, you know, drops down. You know, if I can predict an arrangement when I hear a song by a band, you know, if I can predict arrangement within the first 20 seconds, I think, oh, that's not it, because it's not. I already know what's going to happen. So
with that side of things in mind, mate, were you more sort of like production, mixing, mastering kind of head on? When did you start getting involved in that side of things rather than just playing?
Pretty young, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously wouldn't have been mixing and mastering, but when I was a guitarist before I was a drummer.
Yeah.
So I started playing guitar when I was about 8 years old, and my looking back now, I can see it very clearly that my cousin Mitchell, he's quite rock and roll, always had long hair, and turns up in his fast cars, and he'd always have like loud music on, and he was a really good cousin, because he would always come and visit us, and we could hear the music from like a mile away because he'd have it that loud, and it's like, Mitchell's here, brilliant, you know, and he had I remember he had a Gibson Les Paul Gold top, yeah, and he had this little Tascam, you know, tape recorder,
Yeah.
multi-track tape recorder, and then and he had a Roland TR-505 drum machine, which is 16 pads. You can like pretty much do 3 songs of about 4 minutes a song, and then you have to wipe everything and start again. And I was having guitar lessons at the time, and my guitar teacher said, "Oh, you know, you need to work on your timing." Okay, so Mitchell said, "Oh, well, why don't you buy this drum machine off? I want to upgrade my drum machine. Why don't you buy this one for me?" So my parents bought me this drum machine, and then I started programming drum machines when I was like 8, 9 years old, and I was programming the tracks that we were working on. So for argument's sake, we would do Sultans of Swing by Dire Straits, or you know, Sunshine of Your Love by Cream, Layla, you know, and I would program all the drum fills identical to the recording, which would take me forever. So you got these 16 pads, and you could change. I think you could change the dynamics of them, but I was doing the fills identically, and you were doing it bar by bar. So it definitely helped me understand arrangement. Also, drum part, in terms of why the drum part would change from section to section. Coinciding with this, I could always pick out what the singles were on albums. So, you know, Mitchell would give me, I think one of the first albums he gave me was So by Peter Gabriel.
Oh yeah.
And I, you know, pick the singles out, you know, not knowing which were the singles, you know, and so, you know, Don't Give Up, In Your Eyes, Red Rain, or whatever, and it's like, oh yeah, they're the singles. And then, and loads of albums, I would always pick the singles out. I think really it was out of, I remember my first studio experiences when I was about 16, 17. Me playing and then going into the control room and it not sounding like how it sounded when I just played.
Yeah. And
I was like, I know, me being me, I always just go, I would ask 9 million questions and I want to know why.
Yeah, the inquisitive side of things.
Yeah, and just wanting to know, why is it not translating? Why is this, what's not happening? You know, and it's deeply annoying when someone's trying to pull something together, but eventually over time you start to realize it's obviously it's microphones, it's microphone placement, it's how I'm hitting, it's compression, it's all these elements, and that kind of slowly developed to the point where I got very frustrated with I think the blues scene specifically, because that was the scene I was on at the time, and there didn't ever seem to be any production quality in things. It was always very, very done, very, very quick. You get a week to record 12 songs. The mixes always felt like balances as opposed to mixes.
Got it.
And I think it was Ainsley Lister's album, his debut for Roof Records. At the time, he was being likened to Johnny Lang and Kenny Wayne Shepherd. And I remember, like, Johnny Lang had just had Wonder This World come out. And I remember putting that on, and that's David Z, who did Prince, you know, Purple Rain. And I remember putting that on and going, "Oh my God, this sounds amazing. Why does this not sound as good?" You know, like, and you know, oh right, okay. You know, we played okay, so it didn't really feel like it was the playing, but the sound of it didn't. It was very much a digital sounding record, or I'm pretty sure Wonder This World's got this tape thing to it. And then you, of course, down the rabbit hole you go, and then I'm like, oh, do you know what? I feel like I felt like I could offer more time. So having Superfly around the corner, so this would have been 2004, or a bit late. It was a bit early, but I think when I started producing it was 2004. And I would just basically go, look, we've got the studio. It's not an insane amount of money a day. And I was saying to artists, let's spend more time, because the budget isn't getting blown by going to some super fancy studio that's 750 quid a day. We can do it in a way where it's 250 quid a day. Let's spend more time on the content. Let's spend more time on the songs. Let's spend more time on getting the performances good and getting that side of things good. So hopefully you're hitting a higher quality at an earlier stage in your career. You know, like you're hitting that stride on your first album rather than on your third or fourth album.
That's interesting, because there's nothing worse than when you hear a band, like you say, doing that first album and you might have seen them live and you think
Yeah,
this is a great band, and it doesn't relate to what, you know, EP or album that they release first, and it's normally a
yeah,
money thing a lot of the time, obviously. But
yeah. So I wanted to offer something that basically allowed us to put the quality back in, really, you know. And then as these things happen, one thing leads to another, and then next thing you know, you've got a full diary and you're busy all the time, you know, which is what was kind of happening between, you know, my previous bands, like lead touring commitments. I would just be in the studio, so I would probably do 10 or 12 albums a year,
oh, wow.
um, between all the touring dates. So there'd be like 100 to 120 shows a year, and then I would do all these albums, and then obviously the band would only do that band would only do a studio album every 2 or 3 years, and I'd have all this experience because I'd probably have made 30 albums in that period in between. So it becomes like a problem solving exercise. You know how to get more out of songs. You understand how to get a certain degree of quality, and you understand arrangement more. You understand orchestration. You know how it's going to translate to a mix a lot more. So, like anything, the more you do it, hopefully, you know, touch wood, the the better you get at it. Because and especially in my case, I react to feel. So if it's got to speak to me emotionally, you know, like I've definitely left artists in the past when it just stopped talking to me. The music stopped
Yeah, it's
meaning.
not resonating.
Yeah, and it becomes difficult to be on stage every night, you know, when it doesn't, like, what are we actually doing, what are we actually saying, you know. It's got to have something behind it, got to have some heart behind it. So that's kind of where it all started, and then of course, like with anything, you know, in your life you meet people that you have an infinite chemistry with.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Ollie's definitely one of those people, because we just get on with it. You know, there's no debate.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, there's not you just trust me, you leave it to me. There's none of that. It's like, oh, should we just get on with it? Yeah. And we've got more done in that time than it would be in the past, you know, where things just weren't, there wouldn't be a natural flow to it. And all my favorite bands are definitely bands which exhibit chemistry between the musicians, you know, like the Genesis, the thing of like Genesis are definitely my favorite band ever. And, you know, when you see the chemistry between like Banks, Rutherford and Collins, it's like,
Yeah.
Jesus, like gives me, I've got goosebumps just saying it, you know. You know, Rush, you know, Neil Peart, Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, same thing. I just love the thing, you know, like talking about my cousin, you know, like he would turn up at my house and he gave me Sell in England by the Pound on vinyl.
Wow.
And Genesis Duke and Van Halen 1984. And these are all these things where there's just oodles and oodles of chemistry going on between the members, you know.
Oh, absolutely there is, yeah.
And I love that. I feel that's a big thing that's potentially missing. I think everybody likes to think there's chemistry between people, you know, but real genuine chemistry is quite rare.
It is, and I think it's on those albums, just from a listener's point of view, mate, that and a music standpoint, those are the albums that have always sung to me most, when you can almost hear it. It's, you know, technical ability, of course, you want that to a certain degree, and you know, you want also songwriting a bit, but like the feel and the emotion side that you're talking about there and the chemistry, that's like that extra, you know, that extra 10% that you can never quite put your finger on, but takes it to that next level.
And that just always sorry, I'm coming down with a bit of a cold, but that always just really excites me, that, because and I think the more I spend my days, you know, mixing and working on songs and songwriting, the more I hear the genius of those bands. You're like, oh my god, how did they come up with that? That's so cool, you know. And gets me excited, you know. And it's like a big warm cuddle, like some of those albums, going back to them. I mean, Genesis Duke, definitely, like the moment it comes on, it's like, how did you write that? That's just amazing, you know, just the energy of it and the power of it. And I love the idea of putting that into music. And I think certainly Dead Collective stuff comes from the same place, but just in a different presentation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We want to have that same degree of that we're getting off on it. It's giving us goosebumps. Be it a lyric or the way the melody lands against the harmonic structure, or whether it's the pop when the chorus comes in. Whatever it is, there's that degree of like, oh God. And if it's happening for us, and there's three of us in this room, like where it'll be Ollie, me, and Sam working on some stuff. If it's affecting us, the chances are it's going to affect more people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I'm going to hit someone out of this.
Yeah. So we're working on that rule that it has to affect us in some way. It can't just be that it's a riff for riff's sake. I mean, it literally drives me mental. When I read this, bigger riffs and bigger. No one cares. It's got to speak. For it to have longevity, it's got to have something more than it just being a riff. When you think of like the Zeppelins of the world, they had riff for days, but it's having Robert Plant over the top of it, and
yeah,
there's a top line that kind of overwhelms the riff. We've been writing, myself and Ollie have been writing Ben Paul's new album, and we definitely got a new. He's got some riffs. We've got some songs on that Steve Amadio brought these like kind of riff, basically bass riffs, but they were cool when they were mimicked with the guitar. And we had these kind of rough soundcheck demos, which had got a vibe. And but some of them were like, oh God, how are we going to write a top line over that? And we did it, and we got it to the point where the top line that we got completely made the riff feel secondary, and it was like amazing, like just worked and crafted and sculpted, and to the point where this riff at the time that felt this massive thing. Oh my God, how are we going to write that? They're the hardest things to do, to write top lines over riffs.
Yeah. And
we did it, and we've done it on 2 or 3 songs on his new album, which we're recording, soon. And
oh, nice.
And yeah, I think we're like 8 songs in on that, and but it's so satisfying when the top line overwhelms the riff.
Yeah, when you've got that extra bit of, like you say, that overwhelming vibe about it.
Yeah, and that was nice. So what initially had a great vibe between the three of us of riff, bass, guitar, and drums has now got this top line that makes it feel like a song. It's not just a riff for riff's sake. It's not one of those arrangements where it goes riff stops, vocal happens, riffs, vocal happens, and you have to kind of like stop and start the riff to allow the vocal to have space. It's like, oh, we've actually managed to get it so it's on top and it's the focal point.
Have you, when you've been producing or working on that side of the desk, so to speak, with other artists, had a rough demo or a basis of a song that maybe was sort of there before you came to the thing where you thought, this isn't for me, like you say, you're working on emotion or whatever, but through working with the artist and making changes that naturally happen when you work with a producer rather than working with somebody who's going to push record, that's changed so much the song that you've got to a point with it where you just thought, I never saw this coming out of it?
I don't know. I think initially when I first started producing, I was just trying to do as much as I could, because it was all experience, and all of it would be either get my editing chops together or get my sonic chops together. Everything brings you up. I think the last few years I've definitely not been producing as much. I've been definitely just been concentrating on mixing and mastering. I felt like I could bring more to the table, but yeah. So I don't know if I've ever had that thing where we've worked. I can definitely say from a writing point of view that's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely so there's a song on Ben's new album called what's it called? Empty. Well, it's the writing title anyway. And all it was a 4-bar 4-bar section that me, Steve, and Ben had just happened to. I think we were playing for like 5-6 minutes, but there was this one 4-bar section when we were listening back that was like, that's amazing. I don't know why we all just fell into this one bit, but that's great. And it was a bit more happy and major. And then I think when we got it in the room with me and Ollie, with Ben, we kind of reworked it, made it dark and depressing, and and wrote the lyric accordingly. And where that song has gone, knowing it came from this one 4-bar thing, is unbelievable. The whole first verse lyrically came to me in a dream as well, and I woke up and I wrote the whole thing out, wrote this whole verse, and I think it's one of the strongest lyric things I've ever come up with, and I'm super proud of it. And then we all got together and wrote the second verse together, and because then we had this vibe. But that came from one 4-bar section that we were all just jamming in a room, and all of a sudden we had this 4-bar thing that was just amazing. And I'm not joking, it literally lasted 4 bars, then it fell to pieces and it just all went off. Everybody got too fiddly. There was this one moment where you just went, that sounds like a song.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Kind of an example of it, there's not many times that in some things that I've been working on where someone sent me a fully fledged demo, like even with what we do with the Dead Collective, like Ollie he'll do the first sketch, then he'll come over and I'll then go, oh, maybe that bit there, what's it like if you move that there, and we do that there, and then he'll go back and rework it, and then we bring it in here and kind of go a bit deeper, and then we get to a lyric point, but there's a bit more done. But that song of Ben's, that just seemed to come out of nowhere, and I think it's such a strong song as well. Like the lyric, I'm really proud of that one, and it's got the chorus that just goes, and the whole atmosphere just pops up, and the verse has just got such a good vibe, but came out of one 4-bar section.
Wow. It goes back to that, proving your point, what you were saying earlier about, investing the time to play and jam and see what happens. Yeah. And then you've got that 4-bar section, and it's right, okay, that's led you to this song that you're so proud of.
And I know, to use Genesis as an example, I know on one of there's an archive box set where they have their, the song Mama?
Oh yeah.
I can hear you, Mama.
Yeah.
And he does the Grandmaster Flash thing where he puts the ball button on his face, and it's amazing. It's such an amazing atmospheric track, but that came. I think there's like a 15-minute jam on this archive box set where basically what they would do is they would just jam, and then they would go back through the tapes and they would find the bits that worked.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Just be these moments where it would just become cohesive and everything would go and it'd be solid, and then someone would do something and it'd all just fall to pieces again. And they would go through and they would identify the bits that would work and then do a tape edit. I don't know if they would keep these things and they would build the track from there, or whether they would go back and record them. I'd never found that out, but you could hear it. You could hear the bits when you hear this 15-minute jam. You go, oh, that's the bit. That's the bridge. That's the chorus. And I think it's such a great way to find things, and find moments of genius where the universe decides to visit the rehearsal room or the recording studio, and there it is. And then you link your moments together. You link the bits that talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what it is. It's about the universe talking to you in a way where you're, oh man, I'm getting affected by this, and that bit there, and now that leads to this. And talking about a band like like Sleep Token, that's what they do in abundance. Like they link their moments, and you literally can't keep up because it's moving so fast. It's like, wow, this is so exciting. And
it's so progressive as well in what they do, Sleep Token, which is the side of them that I really like. You can guarantee with Sleep Token that they're going to go somewhere that you don't necessarily expect with it.
Exactly. So you're kept on your toes as a listener. You're not, the arrangements aren't predictable. Like, there's definitely been some instances where I've been sent some albums and and I knew what was going to happen within the first 16 bars, and I could literally write the arrangement out and predict it and go, that's what it is. I'm like, oh man, that is that really music?
Yeah.
You know, it's okay, but like, is that really, is, if you said to that artist, are you really working as hard as you possibly can to be the best version of you, or is that you just on autopilot?
Yeah, you know, you pushing yourself. I think that you can always hear when an artist is driving forward and when they're
Yeah,
coasting.
yeah, resting on their laurels. And I think these days, with the age I am now, I'm more interested in the pushing the creativity and pushing not only my own boundaries but the people I work with. So we're like, come on, we can do this. We've just got to dig in, you know, and just break through what our perceptions are of what song arrangement should be, or song dynamics should be. You know, what can we do that becomes idiosyncratic to us and gives us our own identity, and sounds exciting, you know, and like I say, it has heart and feel, because we're not cold people, we're all very emotional people, so we know those inherent idiosyncrasies are going into the music and creating something hopefully bigger than the sum of its parts, rather than just going, right, got a riff 4 times round, right, we'll break down, the keyboards drop out in the first verse, then we're coming on the pre-chorus, double trap the riff, does a 4 times round for the chorus, do the same again. It's like, oh god, no. Like I've been there, I've done that, I don't want to do that anymore. So I think with people I'm working with, either in a production capacity or even when I'm mixing, I mean, you know, Rambling Preachers are an example.
Yeah.
I've boxed Ross's ears about this, you know. So when I was initially mixing the songs, I said to him, "Oh, you're writing very blocky. Like, I know what the next section of the song is going to be. Let's see if we can just put some surprises in, and just re-engage the listener throughout the arrangement. So, we're into the pre-chorus like 2 bars early, or there's a little 2/4 bar, or just little moments of re-engagement from a listener point of view."
Yeah, it stops it becoming background, doesn't it? It just makes it, like you say, makes those ears prick up and makes you go, oh, hang on, what happened there?
Yeah, just, and then you're back in it, you know. And I think Tom York used to call it fridge noise. You know, you don't want your music to become fridge noise.
No, absolutely not.
You just want these little moments of re-engagement. And you know, a band like Sleep Token, or you know Genesis, or whoever, they were great at moments of linking moments together. So you're constantly emotionally invested in what's going on, be it lyric, because if you can join lyric and atmosphere of the music together, you're really onto something then, because then that means the music is amplifying what the lyrics are saying, and be it a dark thing or a happy thing, or you know, on if you're saying it in really basic terms, you're just trying to amplify that. So you do that. That's the overdubs you do. Think out the box. Like, what have you got? Just keep going and keep working until you find something that the speakers just kind of come alive. Because oh my god, listen to the way that's speaking now. Because you've investigated. It's not just your first idea.
No. So you're talking about your studio, and obviously you're sitting there now, mate. I know you obviously built the thing yourself. How was it when you were coming to physically building the studio? I mean, you sent me some photos of the setup. I appreciate. I'm looking at the other side and looking at your lovely, lovely face. But how was it when you were like building it? Did you have had you been in the studio where you thought I'd like to do something like this, or was it literally just wanting to make it sound as best as it could?
I mean, it was a little bit of a necessity thing. That I'd been touring a lot with A.A. Williams, and the room I was using at Superfly, it was kind of not fair on Andy, because all my gear was set up, and then I wasn't there, and some weird like little breakdown in communication where either I didn't tell him I was on tour, or he didn't hear me say I was going on tour, and then the room sat empty, which is not fair on him because he needs to make money out of that room. And so he's then started hiring the room out to a couple of other producers, and then I couldn't get in as much as I wanted to get in, and then I found out I was going to be a dad as well at that point. So it was a bit like, okay, I've got to rethink this, because I can't have my income being affected by you know, by someone being in the studio. So
Yeah.
I basically just, I think during lockdown, it kept coming up, this company called Sono Solutions, this guy called Carl, and I messaged him and a few other people, but Carl's builds were just super impressive to me. I just love the way they look. And he's a you know, a studio builder. So my room is you know, it's soundproof. It's completely designed to be as accurate as possible. You know, the walls are like this thick. There's diffusion on all the different walls, so there are different types of frequency diffusion on that, to what there is on that wall, to what there is on the ceiling. Bass traps in the back walls. There's a lot of thought gone into it. I had to pass all these acoustic tests. So for me to be able to know that I was in a room where the frequency response was solid, and I could mix in here in a way where I could trust my room and I could trust my speakers. So when I moved out of the room at Superfly was great, but I figured if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go up a notch. I'm going to just do it to the best of my ability. So I told Carl what I wanted. I told him how big my garden was. And he said, right, well, if you've got this amount of garden, you can do this distance. You can do 2.5 meters, because that's planning permission. You don't have to get planning permission, you know, if it's 2.5 meters. From that then determined how long the room was. And then next thing you know, he came back with a plan, and you could see all this diffusion that he's built into the walls. All the walls are fabric. They're not solid walls, you know, not plasterboard walls. So if you tear a hole in it, you'll see all this incredible diffusion he's built.
Oh wow.
Which is just amazing. And when we were walking in it, when it was being built, I think it took like 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't a huge long time to build them.
No, like wooden frame, and then every day I would come back, would come back from working at Superfly and like, oh my god, it's another stage. And then there was a door on, and me and Hannah would come in and just like have a beer in here and just like, oh my god, it's actually happening. You know, we're actually gonna have this thing at the end of the garden that's where I work.
Nice.
So it's just been amazing, you know. And yeah, I just basically told Carl what I wanted, and he came back with specs and all these. I had an acoustician do reports. So there's obviously software that exists where they can put the dimensions in, and that from those dimensions they can tell you what the frequency response of the room is going to be.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And then he did all these reports. So, okay, you're going to have an area where it's going to have this, there's going to be a little dip in this area, and you're going to have a standing wave here. But if we do this, this, and this, that'll negate that, that'll sort that out. So behind the computer, there's like a big feature wall with a big diffuser that's exposed, which breaks up a load of frequencies. And yeah, here we are. Excuse me, nearly a year later.
Wow. So what does the rest of the year and then into next year hold out for you in terms of both with their collective and with mixing, mastering, and studio work?
Well, I'm trying to think. There's a film where he goes, "Oh no, it's the David Brent thing at the Christmas David Brent thing." So what are you going to do then, David? What you got coming up next? And it's like, oh, pretty much more of the same, more of these. And it's a bit of that kind of thing. It's like I work with a label in London called Spiritual, and they send me pretty much all their artists. So I've got all their stuff to do. We're writing the debut album with the Dead Collective. We've got Ben Paul's album. I think we're going to do some stuff with Chantel McGregor.
Nice.
I think we're going to planning on to see if we're going to do a couple of trial days with her, just see if we've got a nice vibe in the room with each other. And then there's like a million albums in the where it's more the mixing. There's just always every week every 3-4 days something new comes in.
That's great, man.
Even if it's just a single or an EP or an album, there's always something going on, which is great, because that's what I wanted, and I wanted to have my own space where I could trust my room. And the great thing is we can my like vocal chain, like microphones and a whole bunch of amazing hardware now that other than drums, I can do guitars here. I can do, you know, key. I've had Bennett Holland brought his Hammond organ in and set it up just here.
Oh wow.
It can pretty much do everything. The vocal sound we get in here is insane. I mean, it's about a 40 grand vocal chain, you know, in terms of what I've got going on between the microphone and the hardware that I've got. The version of Another Day Lost, the Solitude Sessions version, was all just done in here. And other than drums, which we still do at Superfly, we can do everything here. So I feel like I can bring budgets down for people to make really great records and really put the time in on the material. And I think the things we've been putting out, that everything leads to another thing, and people hear something, they go, "Who did that?" And then you get a message through, "Oh, we've heard what you did on this album. You know, would you be interested in mixing this or producing this?" And of course, everything leads to another thing, doesn't it? You know.
Absolutely it does, man. Well, Wayne, thanks for your time, man. It's been great to have you on, dude.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you.
No problem at all. So at the beginning of the interview, I'm going to play Ollie Brown, Day Collective. Of course, I'm going to play Another Day Lost. But as you've been talking about, let's play the Solitude Sessions version of that.
Great.
But what song of yours would you like us, or a song you've been involved in, would you like us to play at the end of the interview?
Oh God. Well, I'm going to say another Dead Collective one because I'm proud. Yeah, heard it all before. It's a beefy beast, that one.
Yeah, it is a beefy beast.
It's actually one that live is. I think Haunted and Heard It All Before. Like Haunted, I do that manic drum fill at the beginning, and when we were at Norwich gig the other night, there was a girl at the front that just went, "Ah!" And she, because obviously it's the giveaway that it's that song. But then when we kick into Heard It All Before, there's such a weight to it, and like just whatever it is, it's got that thing, and
yeah, it's got that drive in it.
Yeah, and that's just that heaviness to the feel. It's just really satisfying. So yeah, go for that one, I think. Oh, actually, I tell you, there's I did an album a few years ago with a band called The Mentals.
Okay.
Which is kind of like the most proggy you'll probably ever hear me play drums. And it was a lockdown album, and we did the whole thing remotely. Andrew Pipe, the main guy, did all the demos, and then said, "Right, you put drums on." And he said, "Right, you know, right, I need you to do your best. Phil Collins meets Neil Peart meets Jeff Porcaro." And I'm like, "Mate, these are all like my biggest." I had to buy a China, and there's an instrumental on that album called "Find a Way to This Journey's End." So it's like a play on words of like a Duke's End,
yeah, you
know, and a few other things, and I think that is if you wanted to do something different, play that one. That song, that instrumental, that probably has me playing drums the most bizarre and crazy than I've ever played, and I mixed it as well. Ollie did all the backing vocals on the album, but it's like Genesis meets Toto meets Rush meets Marillion.
You know what? Fuck it, let's chuck on both, mate.
It's so much fun. I love that record. It's just a really, as soon as you put the first track on, this song called Easy to Walk Away, it's like, it just sounds like Genesis from 1980.
Nice.
It was just fun, you know, like really, really, really good fun. And the singer's kind of got a bit of a Peter Gabriel thing going on as well.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, mate, we'll lock both of them in. Why not?
Yeah,
let's do it. All right. Well, thanks for your time, Wayne, as always, man. Good chat to you. And hopefully I'll see you before, but if not, I'll see you just push play.
Yeah, brilliant. Nice one, buddy. Brilliant.